Hello and welcome to A Sense of Centerville and Washington Township, your place for stories about ordinary and extraordinary residents and places in the Centerville and Washington Township area. I'm Susan from Centerville-Washington History, and I look forward to hearing your story. Today, my guest is Mayor Brooks Compton. Honorable Mayor Brooks Compton has lived in Centerville with his wife Ruth since 1979. They raised their two sons in Centerville. He's been an attorney for over 40 years and has been involved in local government for 40 years as well. His parents were both active in politics, with his father serving in the Kettering City Council. He became mayor in 2016. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Susan. I look forward to being here and part of your podcast today.
Oh, I really appreciate it. I'm always surprised people say yes to being interviewed. So I'm really grateful. And I really, it's a passion of mine to be able to preserve some of Centerville's history for the next generation. So thanks for being here today.
Sure.
We want to begin by talking about some of your family experiences that shaped your life.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Kettering. I was born in 1954, and I had an older brother who was four years older than I was, and a younger sister who was 2 years younger. And we grew up in the area right around Oakview Elementary School, which would be at the corner of Stroop and Schroyer. And then I attended Fairmont West High School, graduated in 72. My brother, was 4 years older, also a Fairmont West graduate. My sister was 2 years younger in 1974. And my mom and dad, my father was a lawyer also. And my mom stayed at home with us, although she had various jobs. She was a microbiologist by training and graduated from Ohio U and Ohio State University, the master's in microbiology. And she worked at the original Kettering Hospital on Southern Boulevard right after it opened, until we, as kids, got so active. And she stayed home and ran us around all over the place at a very, as I've said many times to my kids and other people, had a very easy childhood. My great parents, we had great neighbors. My mom and dad would open the door in the morning and out we went, and we would come back for lunch or dinner. And Kettering was a great place to grow up. And as I became a little bit older, my brother went off to Ohio University and I went off to Ohio Northern University. And at an early age, my brother passed away, and that was kind of a turning point in our family. That's very reflective when that happens. He was 23 at the time, and kind of made us all kind of refocus our lives a little bit. But with the exception of that, my mom and dad were great parents. I very much enjoyed growing up in Kettering. And when I went away to school at Ohio Northern University up in Ada, I will say it was the first time that I had ever recognized that no planes from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base flew over every day, very close to the ground. And it was so quiet when I went away to school for the first time. So I remember that specifically. But yes, Kettering was a great place to grow up in.
That's wonderful. So then how did you meet your wife, Ruth? Where did that romance begin?
Well, Ruth she'd been born in Pittsburgh, grew up in Philadelphia, and came over to Ohio Northern University. And that's where we met. I was a junior at the time, and Ruth was a junior also. And we met in an English history class. And we both, Ruth was a history English major, and I was a political science economic major. And the professor wasn't all that good, but fortunately we both were in the same class, and we started dating there. We both enjoyed history very much, and so we dated our entire year. Then Ruth went back to Philadelphia, had a job in the city of Philadelphia, and I started law school. I called her one day, and I was looking in the yearbook. I thought, I wonder how she's doing, and I called her, and we ended up. Her dad was unwilling to give me her number, but her mother was. So I got the telephone number from her mother, and I called her, and we decided to get together in Philadelphia. And Ruth gave me the whole historical tour of the city of Philadelphia, and we never looked back on our relationship after that. We had such a good time going all throughout the city, and she took me to the city tavern for lunch and all the historical sites, and it being both lovers of history. It was a great trip, and about a year and a half later, we were married.
Wow, it's the
So
beginning in history.
it began in history. Yes. And
That's so ironic that here we're on a history program
so
talking about that.
that's fun.
Yeah. How about your choosing your occupation? How did that come about?
My father was an attorney, and he was a private practice attorney, and he had a couple of different offices that where he was involved with, and oftentimes I'd go into the office with him on Saturdays. My brother sometimes, occasionally also, we'd go in and do various tasks around the office, and always enjoyed it. And my dad seemed as if he enjoyed his career, which he did immensely. And he had a lot of good friends that he practiced with, and also that became clients and were clients. And it was something that I was interested in. We talked about it a lot around the table. We always had everyone was at dinner together, and so we heard about his day and how much he enjoyed it, and he would take us down to the courthouse, and we'd meet some of the people in the courthouse, and it just was really a natural progression that I thought, well, I liked what he was doing, and I thought it would be fun. And as mentioned before, he was politically active, as my mom and dad both were, and that seemed kind of political science automatically gravitated towards law school. And I had a job there in Ada, and ultimately worked in Findlay for a couple of years during law school and stayed there. And that's how I became an attorney, and have never looked back on that career. It's been a great career and a lot of fun.
And what's been your focus of in law?
Mostly when you start out, you do a lot of appointment work. So you get a lot of small criminal related cases to handle. I did that for a number of years, and our office was very much involved in real estate. We had a title company. My father did a lot of real estate, represented companies that did a lot of real estate work. And when I worked in Findlay for a firm up there, I did almost exclusively real estate. So when I came back, started with the appointment work, did some real estate work, and then our firm did a lot related to estate planning, handling of wills and trusts and estates. And so that's been the biggest part of my practice, has been real estate, and then also estate planning and probate work. So it's with the title company and real estate, that was a great experience to learn a lot about real estate, zoning laws, all the aspects of real estate, which, to be honest, became very helpful when I became involved with the city.
Yeah, I can see how that would really connect very well. And it sounds like an interesting topic. So, no, there's just so many different ways to practice law.
Yes.
Yeah. So, are you still practicing?
Yes, I've been practicing since 1979, got my license in 1979, so I'm 45 years into it. And my law partner has been practicing for well over 50. My dad practiced for 50 years and have no plans to retire. It's a type of career I think you can continue to work as long as you like it. And I work with some really good people, Bill Macbeth, my senior partner, Jane Beach, who was a director at Washington Historical Society, and then Charles Blue, who's a younger lawyer from Centerville. So yes, I have a good group I'm working with and enjoy doing so.
So what brought you to Centerville?
When we came back after living in Ada, Ohio, and working up in Findlay, we got married, and Ruth came in from Philadelphia. And we were married 1 year while we lived in Ada, and came back. And when I was growing up in Kettering, Fairmont West, Centerville was just kind of becoming its own at that point, and everything, tennis and sports, football. They had a terrific dance team, which my sister was in the Rhythmettes at Fairmont West, and I was in the band, and really enjoyed that. And Centerville was coming on and everything. And when we came back, I knew I was going to come back and work with my father's firm, and basically said I wanted to live in a community like Kettering was when I was growing up. And it looked like Centerville was going to be a community on the move and a lot of good things going on. And we knew they were going to have a good school system, which they did at that time, and thought it'd be a great place to raise a family. So that's primarily why we came back to Centerville. And once we settled, we moved into Revere Village first. And we lived there for several years. Our first son was born there, and we really enjoyed Centerville. We had a lot of fun. We were right next to the park there, which was Benjamin Archer when we got there, but Stubbs Park ultimately. And just, it was the perfect location to get anywhere you want. And I worked downtown. My wife worked downtown. We were on a bus line, and when we needed transportation for some reason, and it was great. So we've enjoyed it very much. But that our start in Centerville was great. We got involved with the park district and softball and met a lot of friends there at Revere Village, had softball teams that were formed there, and it just became a great place to live. We've really loved it.
So you mentioned two things that I want to follow up on. That Stubbs Park had a different name. It was named after
One of our
founders.
Mhm.
And then it got switched at some point to
Correct.
Stubbs Park. And I think at that point, it also had lovely landscaping added. Okay.
Yes.
So originally, it wasn't so landscaped.
No, it was just a park that the city acquired. It was before I became on council, and I think it was acquired late 70s or early 80s. And the council member was Leonard Stubbs, who was on council at that time. He was a teacher over at the school in Centerville, and people really liked him. He was very active in the community as a member of council, and he died at a young age, got cancer, and the city was just beginning to develop the park at that time, so they named it the Leonard E. Stubbs Park. So that would have been probably 81 or 82. And then Tom Stoles, who's kind of a legendary name around here at Countryside Nursery, Tom became very interested in renovating the park and making it much more of a usable and friendly park for people. And Tom was absolutely instrumental at creating what is now Stubbs Park. And he put up the band shell. He landscaped the area, which is now what would be the area where the band shell is located. And then the area there that's located a little bit to the east of the band shell area, the amphitheater. He created an area which Tom was hoping at one time would be a minor league baseball team, but it didn't pan out to be that, but it turned out to be a great place for cars to park. They all go to the concert at Stubbs Park. So yeah, Tom did a terrific job with that park.
Yeah. And that let's talk a little bit about those changes, and then we'll go back to what we had originally talked about. Because you said you played in the band. What did you play?
I played in the Fairmont West Marching Dragons, and I played a baritone horn.
Okay.
I played other instruments. I played trumpet and trombone, but in the band I played baritone horn, and that was a really good instrument between what would be considered a trumpet or French horn and a bass. And it's an easy instrument to carry in marching band, and so very much enjoyed. My brother was an absolute outstanding musician, as was my sister. And they were both, my sister was in the Rhythmats, which was the dance corps. And my brother was in the marching band, and he was in the Marching 100 at Ohio University. So my family was my father was an outstanding violinist, and so very musically oriented family. I was the least of the talented musicians in our family. Everybody could sing, but as I say, the others were much better, but there wasn't a time that we didn't go somewhere where we weren't playing instruments or playing music or singing or something. But yes, I love being in the band. That was a lot of fun.
Do you still play anything?
I do not now. I recently played the piano a little bit, but we had an incident in our house where the water came, we had a water pipe break, and it took out our piano. So we're going to replace that one of these days. But no, not to the extent that was able to play before.
Yeah,
I'd like to. Centerville Community Band's outstanding, so I'd like to get back to that, but I'll wait until I'm not quite as busy.
Yeah. There, you have to pick and choose what you do. Yeah. Okay.
Are you a band instrument player yourself then?
I play piano rather poorly, but I do play. And I think probably my greater talent is singing.
Okay.
So we do love that. And my kids, two of them were in the band. In fact, my youngest was one of the drum majors at the band. So
at the jazz band?
Oh,
great.
at the Centerville. So, okay, we were talking about Stubbs Park, and let's talk a little bit more about that, about Stubbs Park and Cornerstone Park and how they became city parks instead of being operated by the park district. A lot of people are confused about that.
Sure.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about that, and then the changes that are happening specifically in Stubbs Park.
With respect to Stubbs Park, it's before I was on council, but they had a very good J.V. Stone was on council at that time. Vic Green was the mayor at that time, and then I think Paul Hoy before that. But that property came available, back in the late 70s, early 80s. And the Centerville-Washington Park District was not as big that time, and the city did not want that property to necessarily be developed or turned into a shopping center or something of that sort. So they took the opportunity to acquire it. And then over the years, as I mentioned, Tom Stoll's developed, put a lot of work into that. And then that became a very popular park as a result of the walking trails that were there and the playground equipment. But what we found as council and staff was that it was becoming antiquated. There needed to be some significant improvements, ADA requirements, need to be more accessible to those who wanted to come to the park, who needed some assistance in terms of either wheelchair or walking assistance or something of that standpoint. Plus, the performers, they needed some additional areas in which they could change and set up their programming and things like that. Plus, the water situation at Stubbs was not good. So there needed to be the drainage area and the parking areas all needed to be renovated to really keep up with what the park can become from a concert venue, and also from the standpoint of people who were coming in to walk, people who were coming. We had a disc golf course that we added to Stubbs Park. People were coming to do that. A number of big events, Fall Fest, the Summer in the Park concerts that were put on by the Centerville Community Band, and also the Centerville-Washington, part of Centerville-Washington Township. They were doing parties in the park, and the Shakespeare performances. That definitely needed some upgrades, and also the performers needed a little bit better staging so that they had some better facilities from the standpoint of electrical equipment, sound, and lighting. So those things were all part of the improvements that are being done with Stubbs Park, along with renovating the restrooms. And with that many people there, needed a better situation for restrooms and also concessions. So that's being done and worked on, and that'll be done really in May, June of this spring and summer.
So we'll be able to get back to having events.
Yes.
At that
we're
space.
Very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I've been peeking at the renovations as I walk along there, and it's beautiful. I think it's going to be a real asset.
Yeah.
And that space is so nice to have. The parks, I love the parks, but you can do different things because you have that structure to have events and things like that help bring the community to a specific location.
No, glad you like it. And we're also at Stubbs Park, as part of that is the Veterans Memorial. We're adding the Space Force is now one of the services, and also updating the memorial there, because obviously the different involvements that the country has been in since that was originally put in place. So we're adding those also. So yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you over there.
Yeah, and the Veterans Memorial, some of the sculptures were done by a local resident, Virginia Hess, I think is her name.
Hess.
Did you know her?
Yes, Virginia was outstanding. And she did great work on all those reliefs. There's meaning to each one of those reliefs for her. I've talked to her many times, and we try to honor her. She passed away, in the last couple of years, and had a really nice service for her down to Dayton Art Institute. And but she did really nice work, and the new relief for the Space Force is going to follow the same format that she created and put them on the different bollards that are out there. So we'll be changing a little bit, so there's a little more explanation as to Virginia's involvement and the involvement of other people in the creation of the park, of the memorial itself. So that'll be, right now, the additional Space Force relief is being done. That's been chosen. It's being created. I don't know whether it's going to be done by Memorial Day or not, but it'll definitely be this year.
So maybe by Veterans Day.
By Veterans Day.
Right,
yes.
right. Okay. Yeah. And that's where there's usually a gathering at that location for Veterans Day, right?
Yep. Those are very nice events. And every year the VFW participates, Centerville Community Band participates, and usually have 300 or 400 people out there at least. It's always the pavilion is full. So it's a very nice, and we get a speaker. Right Pat is great about providing us a speaker from their designated officer group out there that performs, or an enrolled an enlisted officer. So it's been great. Yeah.
Okay. You're usually there at those
yes.
events?
Yep.
Yeah, so that
Haven't
brings
missed
us,
one.
yeah, that actually brings us to a question of the main responsibilities of a mayor. You seem to be everywhere doing everything. Um, what are some of the things? Take us through a regular, I don't know if there's a regular day.
Well, just let me tell you, the job is fun.
Oh, good,
I
good.
really enjoy it. You couldn't ask for a better community to work with than Centerville. The people are very supportive of the community, the schools, the parks, the libraries, the city, the township, and the police department, fire department are very great to work with. But typically, the main responsibility of the mayor is to set an agenda for the meetings, make sure the meetings are conducted properly and in accordance with what the law would be, in accordance with our charter. And we currently have one mayor, and then we have 6 council members. So we have 7 voting members. And so every item that requires any public action to be taken has to be introduced by a council member, but ultimately acted on and included in our agenda. And I make sure that that's included on our agenda. So at each of our meetings, we'll do that. In addition to the responsibilities, we have other responsibilities. All of us as council members have other responsibilities, but the mayor in particular, I serve on the mayors and managers of Greater Miami Valley area, Greater Dayton area, and currently serve as vice president of that group. And that's a group where all the mayors in the community get together and we talk about issues that each community might be facing or all of us are facing together, spend a lot of time discussing legislation. It was very important when we entered into having a new city manager. We felt it was very important to have a strategic plan. So the mayor and council worked very closely with staff on our strategic plan. But I also, as oftentimes we have the course of several times during the course of the year, students from the schools will come over, usually 2nd or 3rd grade, and we talk to them. And one of the things they're always very much intrigued about is that I perform weddings. That's one of the fun parts of that. I enjoy that. But one of the, I think, really important things is, as a mayor's responsibility, is to make sure that you're out there with other communities and you're trying to advance or getting your position forward to the Ketterings, the Sugar Creek Township, Washington Townships, and establishing good working relationships with them, and also establishing good working relationships with our legislators, such as our current state representative and our former state senators who no longer didn't run for re-election, but establishing those relationships. And then each year we go up to Columbus and have what's called an advocacy day, where we will meet with our legislators, but we also meet with the chair of the Senate Finance Committee, Matt Dolan, and the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate to talk with them and bring to them information about the City of Centerville and some of the projects that we might want some assistance on from the state, from the capital budgets or other programs that are available. But overall, I think the main responsibility is to keep the agenda moving and making sure that in our council meetings we stay focused and getting our agenda completed and each meeting completed properly. But I can tell you that with the council we have, that is not difficult. We have a great council that works very well together. They're very passionate about the city, and when there's an item to be worked on, our council works on it.
And so everyone has different responsibilities in the council, and you divide those up.
Yes. Yeah, as an example, I think Bill Sayre will work with the Board of Architecture Review. John Palcher works with the Planning Commission. Belinda Kenley, she was the president of the Ohio Municipal League last year. She's very much out there. Joanne is head of the Centerville Community Improvement Corporation. Mark Engert works with the Rec Center. Jennifer McLaughlin, our newest council member, has other responsibilities that she works on and covers. So we all have, it's not just a matter of showing up for a meeting. There's other responsibilities that we're covering. And one of those is Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, which we're very much involved with also, which sets up a lot of the transportation projects in our community. So yes, and everybody does a really good job at advancing. We felt it was very important that we become, all of us, when we when I became mayor, we all agreed, and we had been active before, but we thought it was really important to become much more active in establishing good, solid working relationships, because we work hand in hand with Sugar Creek Township on the Cornerstone project. We worked hand in hand with Washington Township on safety services, their involvement. They have the rec center, so they are getting input from us, and we're providing them input. And just the fact that we work so closely with all of them, that's important. Park District, very central part of our community, as with the library. And so those things, and we do that on a regular basis. So, and the school district, as you know, is kind of the hub of all activity around here. So that's very important that we all cover all of those bases. And we enjoy doing that.
It's all about building relationships, it sounds like.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
All right. Well, that's a great reminder for all of us, is to keep those relationships. Okay, so let's talk about the people that you've worked with, so many other mayors. Can you share some memorable moments that stand out? So I'm thinking that must have been a lot of mayors, but I really can only name. Did you know Paul Hoy? Have you been around since that long? No?
I have
Okay,
not.
so Heinz Kingseed Beals is the ones I've been here for.
Yes, J.V. Stone.
Okay.
When I first ran for council in 1983, J.V. Stone was the mayor at that point.
Okay.
And he was asked to run for Kettering Municipal Court Judge. So he did. He gave up the mayor's position and ran. He was not successful. But Mayor Heinz, and Shirley Heinz, ran for mayor. She was elected in 1983. Absolutely outstanding mayor. And shortly after, in fact,
She was the first female mayor in
mayor for the
Centerville.
City of Centerville, and she did a terrific job as mayor. She was mayor for 12 years. My first council meeting in 1984, our one council member resigned that meeting, and it was immediately decided that, well, J.V. Stone didn't have a job as judge, so we asked J.V. Stone to come back and serve as a council member, and he did for probably about 18 years after that. But he and Shirley Heinz worked extremely well together. J.V. Stone recognized that Shirley was the mayor, and Shirley recognized that she was the mayor, and they worked extremely well. But Shirley she was just a super person. And anybody who knows Shirley knows what a great job she did as mayor. And we would not have Yankee Trace were it not for Shirley's desire to make sure that the community in City of Centerville had a good community gathering place, which was what ultimately became the Yankee Trace Clubhouse, and a golf course that a couple other communities had been building. Miamisburg had built one at the time, Springboro, and they were popular to build. And she had a council that was very supportive of that, and we all moved in the same direction to acquire the properties that were needed. It took acquisition of 6 or 7 different properties very quietly to acquire those properties, and then really the commitment to make sure that the city invested what it needed to invest in that property to make it a successful venture, which it has been. It's extremely successful. But were it not for Shirley's involvement and wanting to do that and our support of that we would not have had a successful venture. But we refer to that as the house that Shirley built. And it's very true that that was very important to her, and that it be done properly in a first-class manner, and it was. But I'll tell you one story about Shirley, that Shirley was a very competitive person, and she played tennis, she played golf, and I played tennis, a competitive tennis player. And Shirley, and we had one year, our sister city from Waterloo came down from Canada, and Shirley thought, well, this would be great. She'd get me as her partner, and she was a good tennis player, and I played a lot of tennis, and they had 2 good tennis players, and they came down and played us, and we beat them first year. And the next year we were at Waterloo, we played them up at Waterloo, and they won the first set. And, how hard were we playing? I can't say I was playing all that hard. We were making a social match. And we lost the first set, and Shirley came back to me and she said, we've let them have their fun. It's time to win. So as I've said that many times, I told my wife about that afterwards. She laughed, and I said that was one of the most intense matches I've ever had in my life because I was not going to lose for Shirley Hines after she had instructed me it was time to get going. So,
Right, yeah.
but
she picked you for a reason.
She picked me for a reason, and she was telling me that I better get with it.
Yeah.
And so Shirley was a great leader for the city. And Sally followed her as the second female mayor for the city of Centerville. And Sally and I were on council together. And Sally had been on, I think, for 6 years. That time I'd been on for 8. And Sally wanted to run for mayor, and so did I. And we ran against each other. And I couldn't have had a better person beat me. Sally beat me, a close race, but Sally, in hindsight, it worked out perfectly. Sally was a very good mayor. She pushed a lot of things. We would not have Benham's Grove were it not for Sally. Sally took a hold of that project when she was a council member and shepherded that through to it ultimately became, I forget what they called, Dayton Art Institute had a special night where they would open up for different rooms for different designers to come in. And Sally put that all together. And it was, as Benham's Grove has been a great success. But Sally thought that Benham's Grove should be in the center of the city of Centerville because there was a proposal to make that a strip center, just regular lots in a retail center. And that was not going to sit with Sally, and Sally was not going to let it sit with any of us either. So we supported that concept, and it went forward as Benham's Grove. And as you know, there's a lot of work going on there right now, but that's what Sally was instrumental. Would not have happened without Sally.
Wow. It really is amazing to think about how our city could be so different without the efforts of these people who have had the vision to create some of these spaces that influence our community.
Yes. Yeah, we were very fortunate. And Mark Kingseed, who was the mayor before I became mayor, Mark was a terrific person. We were very good friends. And, he passed away, I think, in 2018 at a young age. And but he was mayor for 12 years. And really where we have Cornerstone today, that became part of the city when Mark was mayor. And Mark was committed to, as was council, was committed to supporting those business ventures that wanted to come into the city, those owners and business people that wanted to come into the city of Centerville. And council and Mark very much supported their being part of the city and made that happen. And same thing is that development was not going to be a development that was not first class. It would be a first class development. And George Ober and the Ober Development Company has done that. It's turned out to be a great development. So that's a real tribute to Mark that he was able to kind of shepherd through what became somewhat of a contentious relationship with Sugar Creek Township over the years, which I now add now is a very good partnership. We have a very good partnership with Sugar Creek Township now. They're working with us hand in hand on projects together. So, but Mark was a natural leader. He was someone who enjoyed having other people bring comments to the table, let everybody talk, and then was good at building a coalition for how we needed to move forward. And even when he was really ill, he was very good at that. Doug Klein stepped in as deputy mayor and filled in for Mark for a while there, and Doug did a great job. But Mark was really just a super guy, and I don't know that we always kidded him that we had to repaint the door frame because he kept his nails on the wall not to leave the mayor's office. So we just kidded him about that. But he did a good job, and he agreed that it was time that he knew he was fighting some health issues and that to have an opportunity. That's when I ran for mayor.
Yeah. And, we'll have to have the next mayor in to talk about all of your, what do you think have been your highlights then? Well,
I think I'm very pleased that we felt that as a council that we needed to have a strategic plan, that it was very important that we not be reactive to things. We kind of felt that we were becoming too reactive and that we needed to be proactive. We needed to be proactive with respect to the ultimate development of Cornerstone, and that's what led to Cornerstone Park. That was not something we just wanted to leave to see, well, what happens with it. We wanted to have a plan for Cornerstone and the Cornerstone Park. We also felt that it was, shortly after I became mayor, we had a meeting up at Benham's Grove of the individuals who were very active up in what was then the architectural district, which is now called Uptown, and felt that they were interested and they would be supportive of the city moving forward on putting together a comprehensive plan. And when we discussed, and a community group was put together who would look at a AP district as a overall district, not just a one-off that we change one building, that's it. We felt it was very important that a comprehensive plan be put in place for the entire district, and that it wasn't just an architectural preservation district. It was a great place for people to meet in the community and develop, and yet make sure that those areas that are architecturally significant and from an historical perspective to our community would be preserved in a proper manner, rather than just saying, well, one building comes in, we'll change that one, or another building comes in, we'll change that, but put together an entire plan. And that's what has led to a better parking situation up there, the interest of restaurants and businesses locating in the uptown area, and felt that keeping the guidelines, really we've had great work from Ed Ross, who's the chair of our Board of Architectural Review, and very much involved in Centerville-Washington.
He's the president of Centerville-Washington history.
We've been very fortunate to have his involvement and his expertise kind of guide that project through. But it's turning out, we feel, very successful because we did put together a plan, and that people supported the concept of a plan and put a lot of work into making sure that those things that are important to save are saved, and those that can be improved from a standpoint of how they look or would be advanced and supported by the city. That's led to the Manas and Brunch Pub and things up there in the center of town. So we're really pleased about how
and some going. Nice boutiques and
nice boutiques, yes. So we're really pleased about that. And of course, you're right there in the uptown area also.
Yeah, it has improved parking for both of our museums. It's been great to be able to have a bigger parking space and more walkable. So I see the advantages of it, but I also know that there was a lot of criticism. So how do you handle the criticisms?
And we have received criticisms on Uptown, but I think the way we've responded to those is to be as transparent as we possibly can. And the Uptown plan was presented at a couple of different public forums, had a lot of input, and took that input and tried to roll it into what the plan would be, the ultimate comprehensive plan that was put together, and put together a group of individuals who were involved in the community and involved and had an interest in Uptown itself. And that allowed them to get their what they felt were important considerations for the development of that area. So we feel as if we've presented that fairly well, and people have been responsive to it. Initially, I think there was criticism, you're going to rip out all the buildings, or you're going to put parking everywhere, and there'll be parking in the front, and they'll never be the same. And I think what people have found out but they've helped develop that plan. That hasn't just been a plan that was developed by the city. That was a plan that was developed by the community that brought a lot of input to that. The basics of that plan was put together by comprehensive plan, but improvements have been made by people contributing their thoughts, and we've seen changes because of that. But I think the overall, as you mentioned, the parking, that was always a problem for businesses and restaurants to locate within the area, in the uptown area. It was too hard to park. And that situation has really remedied itself greatly. As you know, we've got the Millet Tavern coming in. That's going to be taking place, and we know that there's some additional businesses that are locating. And we've had some very successful businesses in the area, and that some of the murals have been great. So the new one in Wilson Concepts gets a lot of comment, and which is very nice. I like it, and it's very upbeat. And what's Ida Weller mural right there by Meridian is very nice and gets a lot of comments, as does the elk on Square One.
Yeah, I love the big Centerville as you're going into Activity Center Park. And I saw that was on the website for City of Centerville. That
Yes.
one, it's very bright and cheerful, and
Yes,
it's
it
a
is.
great one to have up there.
A lot of graduation pictures.
I know. Well,
too.
yes, absolutely. We've taken photos
Yeah.
there too, and it's nice to have those places around town to be a part of. So,
But just to finish with one other
Yeah.
aspect
Mhm.
is, I think one of the things that I think all of us on council are very proud of in the last is really the heavy involvement that we've had with, I talked a little bit about it with our legislators and other communities, that all of us felt it was very important to have a good, solid relationship and have partners in every place we turned, that we wouldn't be able to do the things that we did at Cornerstone without the partners. Wouldn't be able to do the things in Uptown without the partners. Stubbs Park, same thing. We have a good working relationship with the township. We're very close with them, and that sometimes that was a little contentious at times, but that's a very good relationship. We're very pleased about that. And our involvement of the state legislature has helped generate some funds to Stubbs Park. Cornerstone Park is a prime example. The development of Cornerstone Park was with the assistance of the state, Ober Development Company, the City Council, and staff working very hard on making presentations to the Department of Natural Resources and getting funding for that, because otherwise that natural stream would not have been preserved. It would have been just kind of swallowed up in the development, but it's being preserved, and we have a very nice park and a good walking trail around it, which is becoming more. That's where we had the skylight event with the drones right before Christmas.
Yeah, so I've got two things to say about that. I did end up going to that, and I thought it was great that you let us in singing. I have never had a mayor lead us in a song, so I was so impressed that you felt, that you could do that. And the other thing I love about Cornerstone, we've gone to some of the music that's happened over the summer there, which I don't know if they'll continue doing that since Stubbs Park will be opened. But if you're interested in history, that does have a history loop where you could learn a little bit about the history of Centerville as you go around that loop at Cornerstone.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the music series will continue.
Okay.
That's every other Friday. The music series will be in Uptown, right there in front of City Barbecue and Graders. And then we'll continue at Cornerstone. So they do alternating Fridays. So the fact that Stubbs is back online,
That won't change
won't
anything.
impact that at all. And,
It's great to have live music every weekend to be able to go to. I think it's great to have those, as Eric Collins says, activated spaces, places for people to gather. And that's very important for our
Drew
community.
Simon and Kate Bosdorf, I know you met both of them. And they do a terrific job of organizing our events throughout the city. So we're very fortunate to have both of them on city staff. They do a great job.
They do.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Very
Very
good.
talented people
Yes.
working for City of Centerville.
We have a terrific staff.
Yeah, you do.
Without a doubt.
You do. All right, let's talk about how residents could become more involved in their community. Do you have an answer to that question?
Sure. There are a lot of opportunities to do that strictly related to the city. There are various commissions that the city is always looking for volunteers for: the City Beautiful Commission, the Planning Commission, Tax Appeals Commission, Tax Review Committee, Community Reinvestment Committee itself, and the Planning Commission, Board of Architects Review, a number of, Streets and Highways, Drainage Commission. A number of those commissions are very much involved in the activities associated with various aspects of the city. So that's the major way to become involved. But there's also the program of individuals volunteer Centerville, where we have people who volunteer out at Yankee Trace, people who volunteer various events throughout the summer, or they help around the city building. They help at the police department, help at Public Works. From police, you'll see occasional unmarked or a police car that doesn't have the emergency signals on it. They're helping out by traffic counts and things of that sort. Public Works will have people that will assist primarily through Streets, Highways, and Drainage Commissions that will look over and see, well, what is there something in this particular area that needs some assistance as far as either cutting down the weeds or dredging out a particular area. They all participate in that. City Beautiful Commission do a lot of work. They have a great seminar in the spring every year about what's going on, what you can grow, and different things that grow particularly well around here, and how you can accent your gardens and yards and things like that. And they do a lot of the assist in the plannings around our community. And then we have the Centerville Arts Commission, which handles, Jim Collins is our current chair, handles the summer concert series, works very hard on putting together a good program for the city out at Stubbs, or and assists in the Uptown series, and also over at Cornerstone series during the summer. So there's a lot. That's the best way to become involved, either volunteer Centerville or one of the commissions, boards and commissions. And if you have any interest, call me or call any council member, or call over to the city and speak with our clerk of council, or anybody there, and they'll get you the right direction.
Yeah. So what are the benefits to people in becoming involved in their community?
Well, I think most people who participate in the commission, I think they take a great deal of satisfaction in knowing that they're doing something that is helping the community. Mm-hmm. The people who work on the Arts Commission, well, they're assisting in bringing thousands of people to our community almost every other Sunday or every Sunday for a good community event. And I think that gives us an opportunity, to be honest, show off the community, what the city has to offer, what this area has to offer. Because a lot of people come to the concerts that aren't from directly in Centerville, and they don't know a lot about the city, but they see what's going on in the city. So those types, I think biggest part is that they have an opportunity to assist in improving the city or advancing the city's objective to continue to be that great place to live and work. Mm-hmm. I think if you the people who assist out in the police department, there's a lot of things to do over there as far as record keeping and getting information back and forth. City staff, there's people that assist in putting together statistics, and also with respect to out of Yankee Trace, starters, people volunteering out there to assist on the course and helping people around there who may not be as familiar with the Yankee Trace facility. So yes, there's a lot of opportunity, and they think they feel good about it.
Yeah. Definitely, and getting to know great people, because the best people volunteer. So yes. For sure. Okay, so this one came from, I think, from my daughter. What do you wish people would know about local government?
Well, local government is the absolute closest to you. And we've talked about this a lot and felt this. The national government obviously provides for safety and some overriding major concerns, but your local government is the government that impacts you almost daily in terms of whether your roads are clear, whether your roads are up to speed, whether you're able to answer a safety call within a reasonable period of time, which our police department is outstanding in that regard. Same with the fire department. Whether your trash is picked up, whether there's the proper maintenance of properties within the city, whether you're providing amenities to those individuals in the city that call the city home, or people that are coming to visit the city. Those types of things impact the residents every day. And when you have a contact, if you have an issue with possibly a question about tax issues, you come to the City of Centerville building and you can talk directly with our tax department supervisor. With a real person. With a real person. You're not punching 1 or 2 and waiting to get a call back or something like that. Mm-hmm. And if you have an issue that's of concern to you, whether that's a neighborhood issue or it's a development issue, you can come to your city council meeting. You don't have to go to Columbus. You don't have to go to Washington, D.C. You don't have to work through somebody else. You can contact your representative directly. And I think the same applies with the city staff, is that the city staff, our city manager, Wayne Davis, does an outstanding job. He's very open to talk with people. And if there's an issue that comes up and they call him, he'll talk to them. The same with the staff members and same as council. So the difference, I think, in local government is if you come in and talk to us one day, that next day we should be able to address that concern, or a very short period of time. I think we try to make sure that somebody talks to me as an issue that they're concerned about in the city, and that might be, well, the sewer cap came off. How do we deal with that? And well, I can contact our city manager, who will get it through Public Works, and it'll be done. You don't need to worry about that happening, or if there's an issue with a gutter or an issue with a sidewalk, then it'll be addressed. So those things are very important, in addition to we're very receptive to if there's an issue that people would like to address. One of the things that came out of the disc golf was we would like to have disc golf in our community. Well, that Mark Andrico at that time as our city planner thought that's a great idea, advanced it through. But there are people making suggestions all the time to council members about what things should be done, or if an item's in front of us, you can come and talk to us that day and get a hold of us that day and know that, well, there's going to be a hearing on this item coming up anytime, and you can participate in it without having to do anything special. It's your right to be there, express your opinion, tell us what you think of it, and we'll take action on it.
That's great.
We may not agree all the time, but we're local government that's your hands-on government day in and day out.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. We've talked about so much, but I'd really love for you to talk a little bit about your wife, who's, I assume, your greatest supporter.
And best friend.
And best friend. And share how she supports you and how she's involved in the community.
I was hoping she could come today, but she had grandparent duty today.
And so that's an important job.
That's important.
And a fun job.
A very fun job. We have 3 grandkids, and they all live here in town, and I love them very much. And I'd like to see them more than we do, but when we get a chance to see them, they're all busy and doing things, and so it's fun. But my wife and I have been married 46 years. I say we met. We both love history. Been very fortunate that the activities. She played a lot of tennis and pickleball and exercise, all things that we like to do. And together, she's been very active in the community. When we had our first child, made the election to stay home with our first son, who was 4 years older than our second. When the second one came along, decided to make sure it stayed home, and which I think worked out great. And she was always very active, and everything that came up at school, she was there doing it. As I think I mentioned, she ran the carnival there at Weller Elementary School, which was no small task, and had some great support from our neighbors to do that, and been involved in PTO. She's currently president of the Centerville Women's Civic Club, which is a very active and important asset to our community that's been around for, I think, about 67 years or so now, and very much enjoys that. And she works at the food pantry up at Restoration Church. And but you couldn't do the job. Anyone who's been mayor, you couldn't do the job without the support of your spouse. And that's very important because you're gone a lot, for starters, but you have a lot of activities, and they're a lot more fun to go when you both go together. And she enjoys going. We have a lot of friends that we've met over these activities, and they're fun to go to, and we always have a good time. And but that's an important part of being, I think, a couple that enjoys being with each other. Is she likes to go to most of the events, not all of them, but most of them. But they're a lot of fun. And, so I've been very fortunate. As I say, married 46 years, and I say my best friend, and I've been so fortunate to have her support, because you couldn't do it without the support. When I was on council and I would be gone at meetings, she's at home taking care of the kids. And now that we have a chance to go to those events together, really enjoy it.
Yeah, so I love that you come to so many of our events together, and you seem to be everywhere in the community.
There's a lot of fun events.
The
Sense of Taste is one of the great events that you put on every year, and that's always a lot of fun.
And you came to the Ghost Walk this year, which was fun seeing you there with your wife.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my last question is, what do you like to do for fun? You've mentioned tennis and all sorts of things. What are the things that you and Ruth maybe like to do separate or together or whatever?
Well, we both are beach people.
Okay.
So we love to go to Florida, Siesta Key. My wife's parents lived in Naples originally. They traveled all over the world, and we like to travel, but we are primarily beach people. So vacations tend to get us to the beach or some other place that we might want to go from historical perspective, but primarily the beach, and have fun there. We both, I play a lot of tennis, still play quite a bit of tennis. Ruth played tennis quite a bit, and then plays pickleball now. We both play pickleball. I golf quite a bit. Ruth golfs not as much as I do, but gets out occasionally, and we both exercise quite a bit. We walk, and we enjoy seeing our kids as much as they can with their very, very busy schedules. We have a lot of fun with them, but I'd like to say we're winter people. We're not. We are spring, summer, and fall people. Enjoy being outdoors as much as we possibly can. So but those are the primary things we do for fun, and those are things that, for the most part, we do a lot of those. Pickleball we do together. Tennis we used to do together. She plays mostly pickleball now, and exercise together. So those things are fun. And our grandkids are very active, so we try to get to as many of their games and events as we can. And when they're local, but they travel all over the place. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, that seems like a great way to spend your time, is with grandkids and with family. It seems like that's the main focus for you, and fitness. So you're gonna be healthy for a long time.
Well, hope so.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for spending this time. Sure. Any last things that we haven't talked about that you'd like to add on to the people listening?
Well, I think that those who have an opportunity, if you ever have an opportunity to be part of a city government, it's it's fun to begin with, and it's a great opportunity to serve your community. I think those who become involved, and I know all the council members that we currently have and those that I've been fortunate enough to work with in the past, the community was first for them. They weren't on their way to try to get some other office or something like that and using it as a stepping stone. They're committed to the city of Centerville. And I think we've been extremely fortunate over the years that our council members and our city staff have been committed. We've had good city manager. Greg Horn was a great city manager. Wayne Davis is a terrific city manager. Been very fortunate to have the staff that we have in place at this point that does good work. And if you'd like to come and see that, get a hold of us at any time. But I would encourage you to be involved. It's really satisfying to see your community grow in a positive direction and have the support of your community, which I think we do overall. There's a lot of good things going on in our community. We have, as you know, from an historical perspective, we have a unique history in Centerville. And people always ask, well, what are the 4 stars around the big star on our, and they think about, was it Ridgeville, Miamisburg, Springboro, and Dayton, and think about, we're right in the middle of all of those and how important we were to the development of this area. So take advantage of that in this community. It's a lot of fun to be part of it. And if you have a chance to do it, do it.
You're a great example for the rest of us. Appreciate you being here today. And also a thank you to MBCC for helping to produce this podcast. Of course, to my guest, Mayor Brooks Compton. If you have an interesting story about Centerville-Washington Township, please contact Centerville-Washington History. And also come visit our museums in Uptown Centerville, Tuesday through Friday, 12 o'clock to 4 p.m. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and watch for upcoming events posted at CentervilleWashingtonHistory.org. Thank you and goodbye.